Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you for having me today. I want to congratulate and thank Ambassador Kamal and Dr. Yumkela for their great remarks earlier today. The things I'm going to say, I think, will reinforce some of the comments they had made. At least that's my hope. I'm going to talk a little bit about the global perspective, the needs for energy, maybe water for the globe, from the view of Texas, which is where I'm from. So we'll see if that makes any sense. Just to sort of recap some things you already heard, we have an energy problem. The energy problem is comprised of three problems that are converging at once. One is concerns about climate change or environmental degradation. Another is concerns about resource depletion or having enough of the energy we need. And the third are national security concerns, or concerns about violent extremism funded and fueled by energy consumption, energy trade, energy production. And so these three crises are all happening at once, and unfortunately they can amplify each other. That's the setting, and that's why this meeting and your attendance is so important. As we seek to solve this problem, we have to balance three priorities to come up with a solution. And this is the trick. We need to come up with a solution that does not undermine our national security. Rather, we want one that helps our national security. We need to come up with a solution that's good from an economic perspective. And this doesn't mean price necessarily. It means more availability and abundance. Do we have enough of the energy we need to accomplish the goals we have as a society? And thirdly, we need to come up with these solutions in a way that doesn't undermine our environmental goals. And the challenge or the trick we have as people is that most of the fuels or technology or resources we have satisfy any one or two of these. Very few options satisfy all three. For example, coal. Coal is good from the American perspective for national security because it's domestic. It's also abundant, so it's good for economics and it's good for national security, bad for the environment, or at least very challenging if we don't change the way we use it. So this is typical of the conundrum we have with energy. We have a lot of choices, actually. Very few solve all three. How do we bridge this gap? This is going to take a few decades. But it's going to cause a transition. In fact, that transition has already started. I think it started years ago. And it's comprised of three major macro trends. The first is demand. Demand is going up, primarily because of population growth. As we have more people, they demand energy and water and food, the triangle you heard earlier. And that demand goes up. That exacerbates all the existing problems we have. We already have energy problems, resource problems, and now the demand's going to grow. And as the demand grows, we get more energy out. You heard that will make people rich. And what happens when people are rich? They demand even more energy, water, and food. So the per capita demand will grow for energy, water, food, soil, you name it, on top of the population growth. This is a compounded effect. We'll have exponential growth in total. At the same time, we're going to change the way we use energy. All societies electrify over time. Electricity is the preferred fuel of rich societies for a whole variety of reasons. In America, we're electrifying because we want electric vehicles. In poor countries, are electrifying because they want lighting for education. We're all electrifying, poor or rich, and this means we're changing our fuel mix, maybe from liquid fuels, primarily for mobility, transportation, towards electricity. At the same time, we're changing our sources of energy. We're moving more, for a variety of policy reasons, towards domestic sources, low carbon sources, clean sources, sustainable sources. So we're changing how we use it, we're changing our demand, and we're changing what kind of things we want to use to get this. So this means the whole multi-trillion-dollar industry is in flux, as you heard. This is a multi-trillion opportunity. Someone's going to get rich helping us make our energy system better, and we're all going to get rich from that system being better at the same time. This is a good news story if we do it the right way. Well, let's talk about the United States and the world. What is our energy situation? I have on the left a pie chart of United States of America energy consumption, the different colors of the different fuels. And on the right is the world's energy consumption with different colors of different fuels. They're basically identical. The fuel mix we use in the United States is the same as the fuel mix for the world. The difference is the number above it, 100 quads. That's 100 quadrillion BTU. A BTU is a British thermal unit. That's a unit of energy. 1 BTU is about the energy in a kitchen match. In the United States, we use 100 quadrillion kitchen matches of energy a year. That's 100 billion million matches of energy. And the world uses 500. For those of you in the metric system, a quad is like an exajoule. So the world uses 500 exajoules of energy. The fuel mix is the same in the United States as it is for the world. We just use so much more per person. That's the difference. So the bad news is we're highly consumptive. The good news is we have a shared set of problems as the world because our fuel mix is the same. We use a little more petroleum, the world uses a little bit more cow dung. That's basically it. But it's basically the same mix overall. And so that means we have common cause and we can form partnerships between the United States and everywhere else because the problems you're having with energy are the same problems we're having with energy and vice versa. Now there's some slight differences from country to country obviously, but at a big picture view it's the same. The view from Texas is even a little different from the view from America. The view from Texas is one of abundance. We consume a lot of energy in Texas in total and per capita, and it's primarily because we've had a lot of energy. We've been blessed in some ways. We also consume a lot of water. This is a picture of Spindletop, 1901. It's our first oil gusher in Texas. This changed the balance of world oil production from the Baku region of Russia to the United States and Texas. Texas has been a major oil producer for over a century now, and this has affected our mindset as Texans about what energy means, and mostly for us, it's been a good news story, not perfectly so. We're still a major producer of oil. More than 1/5 of the United States oil production is in Texas. We are producing about a third, more than a fourth of the natural gas in America, about a third of the nation's wind power. We consume and produce about 10 or 12% of the nation's electricity, so we are a major energy producer. In fact, we have a lot of refiners as well. We can refine about 5 million barrels per day of oil, more than 1/4 of total U.S. capacity. And a lot of people don't think of Texas as a coal state, but we're the number 6 producer of coal in the nation. Now, if I change that to major energy consumer, we're number 1 for oil, number 1 for gas, number 1 for wind, number 1 for electricity, and number 1 for coal. Texas is the number 1 coal consumer in the nation because we have such energy-intensive industries, which is the energy industry and some of the things we do. Energy is a big part of the story in Texas. We have so much of it. We've gotten rich from it. We consume so much of it. We like it. It's something we affiliate with good news, mostly. We're sort of like the China for America. And when I say this, Chinese people and Texans get offended. But what I mean is, we're the dirty manufacturer for America, just as China is the dirty manufacturer of the world. We were China, but 100 years ago, kind of thing. So we know the experience. In exchange for getting rich and consuming so much energy, we have some drawbacks. We have dirty air in Texas. This is one of the consequences of having such an energy-intensive society. So we have to think about that. How do we get the good news of the energy story in Texas for everybody without the bad news? That's one of the challenges for society. If we look at how dirty Texas is, this is a chart of leading carbon dioxide emitters in the world. This set of data is already outdated. It's from 2005, 2006, but the story is about the same. China is the leading carbon emitter in the world, just ahead of the United States. It's basically a tie, followed by Russia, India, Japan, Germany, then Texas. If Texas were a nation, we'd be the 7th largest carbon emitter in the world, about 2.5% of global carbon emissions just from the state of Texas alone. Something to keep in mind. We're dirty. We're carbon intensive. We're also rich. This is the trade-off. We made a lot of money from all that oil and gas production and now wind production and other things. We've exchanged pollution and blight for money. We have the richest public universities in the nation. We've got a lot of money. Our state treasury, our government in Texas makes money off this to the tunes of billions of dollars a year because we tax this production. This is very interesting to me because Texas officially hates taxes. We do not like taxes as a matter of public statement, and you'll see it in the news. But we tax oil and gas and other production because this is a resource that belongs to the people of Texas. If you're going to take it out of the ground, you owe Texas some money. Even California, which supposedly loves taxes, if you believe the rhetoric, doesn't tax oil and gas production. And there's a lesson there for a lot of countries or regions of the world trying to ramp up their production. Keep in mind, what are the mechanisms you're going to use to keep that wealth for the people? Through the government or through some other programs. We make billions of dollars. It affects our budgets. We've been struggling with school reform in decades for Texas. We couldn't solve it until 2005 because oil prices were higher, which meant our taxes were higher, which meant we finally had more money, and then we could solve it. It actually helps us solve some societal problems, these revenues. So that's some of the bad news, how dirty we are. Some of the good news, how rich we are. Well, let's talk about wind. The same kind of list of countries, if you listed the countries with the most wind power in the world, the United States is first. This is from a year ago, by the way. I think China's already number 1. So according to this chart, United States, Germany, Spain, China, India, Texas will be 6th in the world. We're the 7th largest carbon emitter, but the 6th largest wind producer. All right, so that's good news. Sometimes if you do energy at a large scale, you do energy at a large scale, whether it's clean or dirty. But this is a good news story for Texas because we're getting rich off wind again. And we're taking these rural areas of Texas. So I just said 2 slides ago how rich we are. Unfortunately, in Texas, it's not uniform. We have poverty in Texas as poor as Appalachia in America. We have great poverty in Texas as well. And these wind turbines are being installed in these rural, poor areas, leading to a lot more money. Wages have doubled in many counties of Texas because of wind. Jobs by the thousands or tens of thousands have been created in Texas. We have more wind jobs in Texas than nuclear jobs. And we've had nuclear power for decades. It's very interesting. And so we see now new political coalitions emerging where rural Republicans are teaming up with urban Democrats to support renewable energy. The rural Republicans like it for economic development. for the same reasons we might like it for sub-Saharan Africa. The urban Democrats like it because it's low carbon, sustainable energy for the same reason we should all like it, I guess. So we put these different motives together to the same conclusion, which is renewable energy is a means to accomplish many good things at once. So I think that's what we're learning in Texas. And so surprisingly, the resistance to renewable energy in Texas is pretty low. We've got a lot of popularity with it. Now we're trying to do the same thing with solar. In the process, though, because we've got such a good relationship with energy, we've had so much of it, we consume a lot of it. Here's a picture of me a year ago with my son, David, who was 7 at the time, with his skateboarding helmet and equipment on, and a younger son in the background named Maverick getting water. And at the very bottom, I don't know if you can see, there's a puppy drinking from a water fountain. This is in Austin, Texas. And in Austin, we have some of the world's cleanest water anywhere. And we're very proud of this water. What's interesting is we use that water to flush our toilets. There are probably 2.5 billion people who would love to have that water, and we flush it down a toilet. This is sort of embarrassing, I think. We also feed it to our dogs. So if you look at that, my dog has his own drinking fountain. We in Austin, we're very pet friendly. We like our dogs. We give them their own drinking fountains, and why not? Dogs deserve clean water. My dog gets better drinking water than about 2 billion people. And I'm proud of that. I want my dog to have good water, but I also think, well, perhaps we can get clean water to another couple billion people as well as the dogs. This doesn't have to be either or. Overall, Texans consume about 600 liters of drinking water per person per day. It's 1,000 liters of water per person per day in Dallas, by the way, because they've got big green lawns and water. That's very high quality water. You need something like a couple liters of water per person per day to survive. The rest is cooking, cleaning, and then luxury, watering lawns. This is a challenge. In total, we spend about 25 million BTU per person per year heating, treating, and moving our water in Texas, which is a significant fraction of what most people spend on energy overall throughout the course of the year, and we just spend that on water that we then flush down toilets. This is very interesting. So this is one of the downsides of being flushed with energy is you flush it, I guess. So here we have the challenge. Approximately 2 billion people do not have access to either sanitation or clean drinking water. We use water for sanitation in America. If we wanted to bring water to those 2 billion people, and we want to heat it, treat it, distribute it, make it clean, all those kind of things, and have them use water to the same level as Texans, that's 50 quads of energy. It would take 50 quads of energy to get water to everybody. And I just told you earlier that the world uses 500 quads of energy. We have the energy. We have cultural, financial, capital, political, policy, other problems in the way. Energy is a great enabler for water if we could overcome these other hurdles. And then here's the other thing. Maybe we need to change our relationship with water here in the United States.